Hello, everybody, and welcome to the green team of the Legendarium. I'm your host, Chesky, and today I have with me Solution,
Hey everybody.
and I have with me our special guest, Eradandis from Wordless.
Consume.
Consume.
Yeah, that's a
And if
big
you,
theme.
and if the three of us haven't given it away, we are talking about the latest book in the Cradle series, number 11, Dreadgod. So we're excited to continue talking about this, and in a second, Air is going to give us a little bit of a recap. But first, I just wanted your opinions out of 5 stars, good, bad, neutral. What do you guys think? Solution?
Hmm. I'm gonna go. I always feel really hyped up after these, and I'm like, I want to do 5 stars. I know it's not a 5 star book. I had a lot of fun. I'll give it 4.5 stars. It was a lot of fun.
4.5. All right. Eradandis?
Instead of giving it stars, how about this? It is the third best book in the Cradle series, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's strong praise, and I am willing to accept that in
Yeah.
lieu of 5 stars. I think I'd give this one probably around 4 stars, 4.25 maybe. I thought it was a lot better than the last one. It has all of those elements. I kind of wish there was more to it. I just feel like it was a little shorter, even though it wasn't that much shorter. So, yes,
Actually,
yes.
it was one word more.
I
Okay.
know, that's true if you count the bloopers, so, no, I like that. I felt like almost our fights were a little rushed and such in the during the book, but it's okay, I'm not opposed to that. Um, Era, why don't you give us a little rundown of what happened in this book so we can start talking about it?
Sure, this picks up right after the last book, and Lyndon has prepared everything to get all of his friends ready to advance. They go off in three separate groups, as Zeal and Orthos go in one group, Yaren and Blue in another group, and Lyndon with his little army of friends that were the remaining go off and do his own thing to go pick up Mercy. Um, they all get into fights. They all advance. They kill a Dreadgod, and they get on the Monarch's bad side. The end.
Yeah, and then they, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
They go
that
into
is pretty much it. Yeah.
a time portal to become so strong the monarchs and the dread gods run from them, which was
Yeah.
kind of an impressive statement at the very end.
Yeah, they're no longer afraid of the monarchs. They're like, all right, this is an obstacle we can handle. We just got to do a little bit of prep work,
Yeah,
which was a fun attitude shift compared to even a book or two ago.
yeah. And before we get into the groups, but let's start with Zeal and Orthos. But I really thought that in this book, maybe it was just the last book too, but Lyndon has done a lot of growing up and growing into his power and his responsibility. He feels more self assured. Oh, did you want to wait?
Yeah, can we wait on Lyndon? Let's wait on Lyndon because I have some thoughts
Sure.
on Lyndon. Let's
No,
wait
that's
on that.
fine. Let's
Okay.
just get right into Zeal and Orthos. So, Zeal is given the task of going and collecting the Grand Oath, right?
The Grand Oath
And
Array. The Grand Oath
the
Array.
Array.
Grand Oath
Yeah,
Array, excuse
it's
me.
like
It is
a.
an array, yeah.
He's all about the scripts. He's all about those like little symbols that make him do stuff. So I mean, I think it fit for him to do that.
Yeah. And he goes with Orthos, who is going to absorb remnants to power up. Um, how did you guys feel about their journey? They kind of get there. Lyndon shows off a little bit, and then they start investigating and trying to figure out what happened, how to do this. Anything that stuck out to you while you're there?
Um, the first thing, and it was before they even left. I like that Zeal is accepting himself as part of the group. I did not like because I really liked how he popped out of the couch. He's like, it was something Nathan would do, and I'm trying to lift the group spirits. And then Lyndon stuck his foot in his mouth and made Zeal feel pretty. And I did laugh at that. I felt a little bad that Zeal didn't get his own little thing from Lyndon, his own little construct to protect anything. But other than that, I like their little duo, the two together. I thought that was a good group. Orthos, I feel like he was backtracking a little bit. I feel like he has some regret for not changing into an actual dragon when he had the chance as Underlord, and he was starting to think about doing it as his higher advancements. So I thought that was interesting. I'm not sure how Will wants to play that out, especially with only one book left. But yeah, what do you
Hmm.
guys think?
That's fair. I can go if you don't mind, Eric.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I like Zeal, but I didn't like him as much in this book. he didn't fit my character. That he's kind of always been the sour one and the dour, just like, yeah, I'll do it, and like, and I like that he's growing. Like, don't get me wrong, I like that he's kind of opening up out of his shell, and he's like, I am a good guy, and I want to do these things. It felt odd coming out from it this book, just being like, I'm going to try and be like Ethan, which is like the complete opposite of him, right?
Yeah.
I liked him confronting Lyndon again and saying like, Bercy's not here and I am. I'm going to take this one, and it's like, yeah, of course that makes sense, Lyndon. You should have thought of that as well. Um, going there, I didn't. I don't know. He powers up at the end because he's kind of got the Grand Oath Array, but I didn't really. We don't see a lot of him doing stuff there. It's them interacting with remnants and then going from place to place. So I don't know if I really felt like he had grown a ton in power wise in this book. But Aaron, what were your thoughts on Zeal and Orthos running around?
Yeah, I'm on the opposite end of you, Chesky. It was I liked the storyline. Zeal is a failed Lyndon. That's kind of who he is. Lyndon's always optimistic and he's always shooting for the stars, and that's who Zeal was at one time in the past.
Yeah.
Where he's at now is his ambition's been shattered, his everything he believed in has been shattered, and now we're kind of seeing him begin to kind of feel that fire again and reaching to say, hey, I thought I lost my dream, but I really hadn't. You see him beginning to get his sage icon. I'm guessing it's a guardian icon of some sort. That seems the implication. So I liked that, and I liked that story arc. I like the fact that Zeal has never had a problem going after dragons, and he's powered up to the point that he's willing to just, oh, there's an army of dragons, let's go. So I enjoyed that, and this may end up being one of my favorite scenes, but I liked the Zeal and Orthos interaction where Orthos is chattering on about how awesome dragons are, and then he's thinking to himself, man, this Zeal guy's just an idiot. He's not even paying attention to me. And then Zeal says, no, actually, I was just wanting to see your point of view, and kind of goes on this long, kind of thoughtful, rebuttal of what everything Orthos was saying. So I liked all of it. The only part I didn't like in this journey was that Lyndon saves them in the end. I would have preferred that they have already been at a point where they were going to win regardless, and then have Lyndon come. That's my only quibble about this particular storyline.
I feel the same way, Aaron, about
That's fair.
that ending
Yeah.
there. So okay, Zeal and Orthos, they've powered up. How did you guys feel about Yaren and Little Blue temporarily joining the the Bleeding Phoenix cult?
Yeah.
Red Moon.
Yeah. Red Moon
yeah.
Hall.
Red Moon Hall, that's it. Sorry, I kept wanting to say the Blood Moon Hall, and I'm like, it's not
They
Blood
got
Moon
they got a
Hall.
lot of weird, confusing blood related names there.
Go ahead, Aaron. Let's hear it.
This was my least favorite by far. Yaren has turned into a caricature of herself. Or as the Cradle series goes, he did a pretty good. Yaren was really one of the main characters that was being developed, really through the Uncrowned tournament, and then she just stayed static. And that she is who she is as a personality. No more development, and she's basically a big club going around smashing people now, and she's always surprises people by how smart she is. So I couldn't care less about her, like what she did or what she didn't do in this particular storyline. The part that I did like in this part of the story was the points of view from the Sage of the Red Faith. Is that the Sage? So I like that, and I kind of liked where he ended up as a remnant. So I kind of like that little mini arc with him. But Yaren and Little Blue, that part I didn't much care for.
Okay, solution.
I didn't have strong feelings about it either way. I did like that they were finally getting through the bleeding phoenix kind of stuff that's been always haunting Yaren. So that was nice to kind of be like, all right, let's get that out of the way. Have a little bit of a power up, so that made sense to me. I did like Little Blue, even though it's a little, I don't know, it's tough to narrow down where she is in the spectrum of advancement as far as how she's going to actually help the team, because she initially started as just something as a tool to cleanse Lyndon from the Black Flame. And now that he can do that on his own, doesn't really have that issue anymore. Where does she stand? She's just the team mascot and a pet. So does she become more of a human on her own? But she denied trying to do that because she could have been more human-like. I think there was something in this book where she mentioned she tried not to be. She wants to stay little. So I'm not sure where the character's going, especially with only one book left. Again, just kind of like Orthos. Or if he wants to do side stories later, I'm not sure. But it was okay. It didn't strike me as good or bad.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
just on that particular point,
mhm.
so just as it's implied in the story, but I guess it's worth pointing out that Little Blue needs to advance to be able to keep up with Orthos as he advances to be able to keep on cleansing his Madra. So
Okay. So it's for Orthos. It's no longer for Lyndon. It's mostly to hang with him.
that's what it appears.
Well, and I would
Okay.
think that also if Little Blue is not advancing as one of his bonded spirits, that could potentially negatively impact Lyndon as well, right? Like he's bonded with them, and that forced his advancement, to gold, right? But then
Yeah.
if he pulls up too far ahead of them, then they're going to be dragging him down, and it could be harder for him. At least that's kind of how it works in my mind. It's just like they are rubber banded together. If Orthos and Little Blue are too low, it takes more effort, and then he has to like jerk them up. But if they kind of level with him or a little below or whatever, then they'll advance smoother. But
Okay.
I liked the Yaren. It's interesting. I liked the idea of Yaren going to the Blood Moon Hall and learning about her blood shadow some more. Oh, I didn't hear you.
Red Moon.
Oh, Red
Yeah.
Moon.
Red
Excuse me.
Moon.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Going to Red Moon Hall and trying to learn about her blood shadow and like her integration. And I know that she doesn't like it, but she's learning. Oh, look, I've got this hunger madra that I have to like be taking care of as well. I only ever use the blood and the sword, and I feel like though she's kind of advanced already past them for the most part. Like she could have learned some basics that could potentially help her in the future, but I don't feel like she really learned anything. She went there, she talked with the Sage of Red Faith. He was like, "I want to learn out how you did this, and I'm going to read your memories." And then she's like, "I'm going to go fight the guys who just want to kill everybody because you're not as bad as everybody else, Sage. You wanted us like you are bad, right? He's a bad guy, but like these other guys are just worse. They just want to go kill and maim everybody, in the name of the Phoenix. I'm going to start attacking them. She's not really growing any stronger from it. Little Blue, like, with the spear and just sucking them dry, I was like, okay, I guess this is an easy way for her to advance. But I didn't really feel like Little Blue did anything in that one. It was kind of like, she's just here. I would rather her stay with Lyndon and do something, or, she has to consume part of something else like Lyndon did. I don't know.
Yeah. I can
So
see that.
I wasn't like enthralled by it. I was like, yeah, she like it. She has to protect them. That's kind of a conflict for her because she hates the Bleeding Phoenix, and everything it stands for so much. But it just didn't land as strong as the other two did for me. So, is there anything else you guys wanted to say?
Um. No, I think that covers it as far as Urine and Little Blue.
Well, and I'll add that I do like I like kind of where her relationship with the Sage of the Red Faith ended up. I know that right now he's kind of trapped in the void, her void key,
Yeah.
but it sounds like that there's an eventual kind of symbiotic relationship that they can form in terms of exchanging knowledge, right? Because what Yeren mostly lacks is like knowledge, like
Yeah,
how to use what she has.
Yeah.
She's got
I
the
would
power, she just doesn't know how to use it right.
I would say she lacks that really foundational Bleeding Phoenix knowledge
Right.
that the Sage of Red Faith has, and he's studied extensively, and he's missing kind of the late game. Here's how I merged with my own shadow, and so that a symbiotic relationship could easily be formed there.
Right.
It was cool to see him realize that it was because of him as a person that he couldn't become monarch. So that was an interesting thing to like, all right, this guy actually realized it. Not just deny, deny, deny. Now, what's wrong? How could I not have done this? It's like, oh, that was just the way we were. Okay.
Yeah, I
The
did
first time.
everything right. It's just me. I won't submit to anybody else, and neither will
Yeah.
my shadow. Yeah. Now you bring up monarchs, and there's a lot of dealing with monarchs in this book, and we all called them cowards for not ascending, and that's fine. I stand by that in the last book, right? Do you
Yeah.
think that Malice has a small point in that trying to set her family up for when she's gone? As a monarch, staying for a short period of time to make sure that her family is not just wiped out by the highest level threat as soon as she leaves.
Nah,
It's
that's
a
And then
lie.
ascending.
It's a lie.
It's a lame
Her
excuse.
name is Malice. Okay.
Well,
She
okay.
lies. She's deceitful. That's what you're talking about. Her conversation with Mercy. That was a deliberately deceitful conversation. She couldn't give a crap about Mercy.
Yeah.
Whether she lives or dies, she's a tool to be used to maintain her status as a monarch. She never plans on leaving, and monarchs are essentially immortal. She's
No,
a
I
liar.
know that the monarchs are immortal. I'm saying, would you be okay with it if a monarch did stay just temporarily to like get their family in order and set up and then ascend? Would that bother you at all? Or would you still call them a coward? Or
I
would you
don't
be
think
like, no, they're okay if they actually leave?
I don't think because they won't. That's not in their nature. That's why they killed Emrys. Is because and
Right.
that's the only monarch that's even good is because she's a remnant and was killed by the others. And it's like, all right, here's a chance to finally get everybody out of here.
Well, look, here's the better question I would have for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The original Abadan were monarchs from Cradle. That's pretty much been established, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Aside from ascending, what's the difference between the Abadan, the original Abadan, and the monarchs in Cradle now? Aside from ascending into the way, what in terms of personality and how they've conducted themselves, how are they different?
I don't think they're that much different. They just had more drive to continue on, I would feel like. They wanted to be the absolute masters of everything instead of just of Cradle.
Yeah, more Lyndon-esque than staying in the small pond.
So I would agree, and I would say that the only reason these monarchs don't ascend is because somebody's already there. Somebody's already filled that vacuum. So that's the only reason they don't ascend.
Yeah.
All right. So would you say that you think it would be impossible or very unlikely for like a new monarch to arise and then ascend on Cradle?
Like
Or
Fury.
would they, if they hit monarch, they're gonna just stay because that's where they want to be?
There's no the way the system's set up in Cradle. There's no possible way for a new monarch. So if somebody's ascending to the level of monarch, they'd be noticed by other monarchs and they'd be monitored by the other monarchs. And then that person would then have a choice. You either are sworn to secrecy and you stay on Cradle, or they're going to get you out. Or
You
they're
could
going
be sworn to secrecy and still ascend, I believe.
You can, but what I'm saying is that those are the two essential options that you have. You either have to swear yourself to secrecy and stay. You can later ascend, or they're going to kind of nudge you towards ascending.
Okay.
There's no third option.
Yeah, and we see that with Fury already. So I don't think anybody getting new is gonna stay. I think the entire system needs to be de-established. And
Well, this is going to get into the Linden part. So,
Yeah.
do we want to talk
think-
about Linden?
well,
I
I
think
have
that's fine. We can.
one last
oh,
part before we go into it. Because you mentioned that the original Abadan were monarchs from Cradle. We also have in this book they mentioned that the role of the Phoenix, so all these roles, even if you killed them, it also brings power. So what do you think correlates between the icons that they grab on Cradle to their roles as judges in the Abadan that last for centuries, even through other people inheriting those roles?
I think the icons necessarily transcend Cradle. They're not strictly from Cradle because like the Phoenix Serial, she is channeling like the Phoenix or the healing icon, but to its like maximum degree, right? She is the Phoenix. Whereas Linden is not necessarily like the end, but it's the start of it. So I think it just continue on. But
Okay.
Or think of it this way: the Abadan are They're essentially physical manifestations of an icon.
Yeah.
That's essentially what they are. To Chesky's point, I think I'll leave it at that right now.
All right.
I don't see any conflict there between icons and Dreadgods or anything like that.
No, I'm not just pointing out conflict. I was mostly trying to see if you guys had an opinion on anything like that, because I'm thinking with the way the magic systems he has based on each world, and then as what's outside of the world is one magic system, is because of the icons. Because you have other like Serial that we know is not the original Serial, but she's using that magic system when she ascended, because that's now some influenced by Cradle as well.
Well,
think-
so I guess
Oh, sorry.
'cause I guess I was a little confused because, so for example, with the Abadan, the judges,
Yeah.
I never really understood that their titles were meant to be icons. They're mostly representations of animals of some sort. There's the spider, the fox,
The
you know,
hound.
the hound, the phoenix. I thought those were. I guess are you telling us that those are not just titles, that they're actual like icons of some sort?
I don't know if they're icons by like the beasts that they're representing, but I think like Chesky's right, like healing is specifically to the phoenix. Um, what is the spider's fate or something
Fighters
like
and
that?
information gathering.
Okay,
Information and spying, yeah.
so that's what I'm saying. I think the icons that are on Cradle that were originally associated with these 7 judges when they ascend, well, 8 judges when they ascended, has something to do with the actual magic system for the entire Cosmere or the will
Yeah.
verse. That is essentially what it
Uh,
is.
Well,
oh, I,
can we get back to this at the end? Because I want to have a
Yeah.
special part to talk about. Because I think it's worthwhile to have a discussion about what we're talking about here, and
Mhm.
then kind of the fight that's brewing between Abadan versus the Vroshir versus Osriel.
Okay. All right. So let's go on to what I guess Linden then.
yes.
All
Sorry. So Lyndon, if I am unmistaken, he sends everybody off on his own. He does some more soul forging. Then he basically tries to recruit Mercy over and over again, fights, destroys the Dreadgod, and then books it. Stands up to Mercy, and her Malice is almost on her level at the end. And then they go into their super training montage that we'll see in the next book, maybe.
Yeah, Eye of the
No.
Tiger, just the entire time.
uh, so I guess let's talk about Lyndon then. Like I was saying earlier, I really feel like Lyndon has grown into his sageness, or he's grown into his power. He's still deferential and he's still a nice guy, but he doesn't take crap from people anymore. Unless as much as he doesn't like to. Right? He's like, I am here. I'm going to do what I'm doing. Like, you have to respect me and my ability here. I'm not going to just cower in front of you just because you're a higher level than me, like I used to. I mean, do you guys feel that he has kind of grown into that a little bit, or no?
Somewhat. Um, he has a little bit, but you also see where he says kindness and manners cost nothing. So he's just lets the sages, some of them adore him, some of them hate him, and he's just like, let them do what they want to do. He knows they can't really affect him. So he has that confidence, but he's still trying to stay kind and just like, he'll treat them as elders anyways. He doesn't really care. It's mostly people that are way above him, like, and even the monarchs, he does not feel like they are way above him anymore. So that's where I think because he's at that power cap, he's close, that he no longer feels as threatened, unless it's pretty much a judge or somebody that's outside of this world.
Aaron, what do you think?
So I'll disagree slightly with Solution. Well, so here, back up. With Reaper, I felt it was the least Lyndon that Lyndon acted in all the books. This book was a more mature Lyndon, and here's here's kind of like what I mean by that. Lyndon's always been cheat, do whatever you need to win. It doesn't matter. Winning is more important than the form of it, right?
Yeah.
And we see that in this book where he's like, look, cheat, steal, whatever, we're going to advance and we're going to do what we need to do. That's a core part of his personality. 2, he was always Mr. Preparation. Every book, it's I got to plan, I got to prepare because I'm not as strong as everybody else. So I've got to outthink everybody. That's always been a core part of his character. In this book, I mean, it was essentially a running joke. So we're going to use countermeasure number 52 to kind of like, because Lyndon has prepared for all
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
That was so funny.
Right. But I like that, right? Because it was done seriously, but you're seeing it as a joke, right? But for Lyndon, it was very serious. So I get the part where I disagree a little bit with Solution is that Lyndon is really, so as a sage, he's a representation of the void icon, right? So
Yeah.
his whole kindness and manners cost me nothing, but I'm done being being deferential to other people because I want what they have, right? I want to go past them. I want. So I think he's kind of overcome the being scared of other people because he wants to kind of go past them. Go ahead.
I was going to say I agree with you, and I think part of it is that he's actually interacted with the monarchs, and he's like, these guys aren't anything special. Like, yes, they have immense power, but they're not like he doesn't aspire to like turn into a Malice or a North Strider. He wants to go beyond them. So I think it works well with what you're saying that he wants to go beyond them. He doesn't see them as like the goal anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would also say this, at least one of the things I like, and I'll spoil one of my favorite scenes. Lyndon's not perfect, right? So he protects everybody except for Jai Long, who ends up essentially killing himself to save his sister and Lyndon's sister. And he's asked, well, why didn't you do anything to save Jai Long? And we see earlier, and we know that he doesn't particularly care for Jai Long. But his answer was, I thought he could protect himself. He's not perfect. And I know it's a small thing, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's not Lyndon's not being portrayed as this kind of Mary Sue where everything he does is perfect.
Yeah. No, I like that. That was a great line.
I like that. No, it's I like the Lyndon's growth. He's still the same, but he has grown. And I like how you put it there. He is more mature. He's kind of grown from that, like, I'm a teenager to like, I'm a young adult, where he's like, I'm in control. I'm going to make my own decisions. I am going to go against what you say, even though you've sworn me to secrecy. Like, there's those things. I think that he's showing that growth, and his power level is just off the charts at the end of this book.
Yeah. It's fun. Breaking the system.
Well, so
That's
so one thing I like more than anything out of books in general is being surprised, like seeing something that I wasn't expecting. At the end of the last book, I was convinced that Reagan Shan was going to be the next Dreadgod, and it wasn't until I started when I got the first 10 pages in or 15 pages into this book, I'm like, oh, he's going to be the next. Lyndon's going to be the next Dreadgod. Oh wow! I was genuinely shocked, and I'm like, that's awesome. Like I thought that was awesome, and it also we could talk about this whenever, but it ties into one of the ways that Lyndon can get the monarchs off of Cradle.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it right now then. This is kind of what we're into.
Yeah.
Lyndon, by killing the Dreadgod, the Silent King, which was an epic fight. I wasn't sure they were going to go with the Silent King, but I think we all kind of were like, I think we thought the next Silent King would play a big part in this book. I was surprised to actually see it get killed,
Yeah.
but it was pretty intense. And Lyndon, half his arm grows up, and by force of will, he stops it from overtaking him. So he literally could have been a new Dreadgod, a new Subject 1, right? And I love that he did get that power up. He's like, all the Dreadgods share the power, and he's like, that's me now too. And then he gets that huge influx. So, Era, what's your solution for him getting the monarchs off of Cradle now?
Well, remember the Dreadgods and monarchs are tied together.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's powered up because he's killed a Dreadgod. If he kills another Dreadgod, he powers up some more. He kills if his goal right at the end of the book is I'm going to get rid of all the Dreadgods.
Yeah.
And
He wants to be the last man or last Dreadgod standing.
So he'll be the last Dreadgod standing. That'll make him more powerful than all the monarchs. All the monarchs would have to band together.
I was gonna say, wouldn't they have to just band together and be of one like purpose? But that's really tough for a monarch to do. So,
but that's not going to happen because it's impossible for them to do so. And even if they were, they're not united. Emrys wants the Dreadgods off of Cradle, right?
Mm-hmm.
The eight-man Empire obviously has some type of coalition with Emrys. So you already have two of the monarch sets that are not going to. In other words, it's not going to be possible for the monarchs to unite. So Lyndon essentially has a club over their head. You leave or I kill you.
Yeah.
Right?
Or he reversed it on him because that's what they told him, basically.
Right.
That's what they want.
He's not going to leave them a choice.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then once they leave and he leaves, he's taking the Dreadgod power with him because he's collected it, and the Dreadgods are gone.
Yeah. This way, it doesn't have to take generations that they've been so concerned about. With even if the monarchs left and all the Dreadgods were still around, take that much time for the hunger to disappear.
Now, okay. I had just one little nitpick that kind of has to deal a little bit with Dreadgods.
Okay.
Why didn't Lyndon use his knowledge of the labyrinth and try and reverse what Reagan Shen did and put the Dreadgods kind of back to sleep? Is it just impossible, or is it just he didn't think about it? Because like he could have easily just been like, I have control of the labyrinth. Let me switch the two cores and the two cores back.
Well, I think it's because
Is it
what
because it
Will's
just doesn't make as much of a good story if the
yes.
Dreadgods go back to sleep and he wastes them? And I'm fine with that. I'm just
Well, but it
in
also
my
doesn't
mind
give
that was like one thing. I was like, he's control of the labyrinth. Like, why doesn't he just like, maybe he just didn't know. And obviously, I'm just, that's all. But like I said,
but
very small.
my theory is what Era said is that this is what we're leading to. If we put the Dreadgods to sleep, then the monarchs still have power, and Lyndon has to find some other avenue to solve the Dreadgod problem and the monarch problem. And there's not really a convenient solution to both if you're just putting the Dreadgods to sleep.
Well, but he could put them to sleep and then kill them, and then he'd still get their power because the
I
power's still there. It's just dormant.
But he won't know where they're asleep because they go into hiding and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Like I essentially agree with your point, Chesky. But if we're going to kind of rationalize it, if they go to sleep, where do they go to sleep? How does he wake them? I mean, it creates a whole other set of problems. At least they're active and out there.
Yeah, it's more
Okay.
fun to
And
have multiple Dreadgods fighting all over. I'm like, all right, we got to go here, we got to go there.
and at least if they're asleep, it's going to make it that much harder for him to take out the monarchs. Because remember, the original method is he kills the monarchs and then the Dreadgods slowly die off. But to do that, he would essentially have to stay on Cradle to make sure no other monarchs appeared. But by virtue of him staying on Cradle, the Dreadgods would then still exist.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it creates like a loop problem. But if he attacks it from the other end, where he is a Dreadgod, and then he takes care of all the Dreadgods, now he has all their power, and that's how he can get them off.
Yeah. All right. How did you guys feel about his Dreadgod title, the Empty Ghost?
Boo.
Yeah,
Boo!
Boo.
Boo!
kind
Oh
of
man.
lame. I feel like he almost should have went with some of the blooper ones just because they're funnier, and it would have poked fun at Malice being bitter. But it was all right. I feel like it's not going to be important on more than like one or two sentences in the last book.
No, I mean I don't see it having a huge impact. I liked the title because he devours, so he's always empty, and he goes from place to place, and he's white. His arm is like stark white, like a ghost kind of thing. I don't know. It didn't bother me, I guess, as much as you guys didn't like it. So
No, it doesn't bother. I just I don't really care about it at all.
yeah. And his arm is a little bit OP. It ate the Dread God's call for help.
Mhm.
That is it's hunger for everything, not just power. I was intrigued by that. What else can he eat? Could he eat another monarch's authority as they're exerting it on him?
Sure.
So a question I had is that a natural part of Subject One's hunger power, or is that a synergy between the hunger god, the Subject One's power, and the void icon?
I think it's the later. It's the hunger icon embodied into a dread god as the original. So that's why it's hunger. It can take anything. It can take authority. It can take whatever one. It could take speech. If he figures out a way, I'm sure Will find a way for Lennon to use it in that way.
I kind of thought it was a little bit. It was a little foreshadowed there because Lyndon uses his quiet command earlier, and that's a very similar thing where he says quiet, and he drains the words as they come out of his mouth versus
Mhm.
like actually causing him to be quiet, right? And it was very similar to the same way he used it with the Dreadgod. Now, I definitely think the Hunger Arm played a huge part in that versus just his regular authority, but there is that. So, excuse
What do
me.
you guys think of the monarchs in this book?
Yeah, they're horrible. They're
Uh,
just
Similar to what we've all been leaning towards the past book or two. Um, I had a little bit more hope for Northstrider because I was like, all right, he's trying to like re. I was hoping he'd have a motivation. Like if he had his own little dross, then he would feel comfortable enough to ascend. Like I thought like that was going to be the reveal for him, and maybe he works with Lyndon, but he just turned out to be extra petty. So
I think it's the same as Era was saying. They're too they want to be the top and they don't want to
yeah.
have to go through the middle, and so they won't ascend.
Well, that's
They
what I was
just
hoping he wouldn't have to. I thought like that was his goal was so that he was prepping himself as a shortcut and an advantage for once he's off, he's already got his own little presence, like a good one. That it's not like slavery that he thought he was going to be in.
I like your description of petty because there was a moment where demonstrated how petty North Strider actually was, where he sensed what was coming and then he chooses, I can take advantage of this by not doing anything and letting the other monarchs take the heat. It's like they can't help but be selfish. That's just who they are,
Yeah,
right?
for centuries they've been doing it. It's hard to ingrain or sorry, take that out of like an ingrained personality that just this is
Right.
how they live their lives.
Yeah. All right. Monarchs, if you have anything else, let's get back to them. Let's just talk a little bit. What are just some of our favorite scenes from this book? Um,
Ooh.
I'll have a
Okay.
couple of them. Or let's talk about Dross. We haven't talked about Dross yet. How did you
Okay.
guys feel about him coming back? Was it worth it? Did we prefer the old version? Era, let's hear it. I want to hear your opinion.
So I was tired of the original Dross. I think I made that clear to you guys. Like it was
Yeah.
just overwhelming the amount of jokes, whatever. So, and this is gonna tie into one of my favorite scenes because it's to me this kind of it connects. This book had less overt humor than almost any of the other books. The
Hmm.
humor was there, but it wasn't in your face the way the other books were.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So when Dross came back, the original Dross, a favorite scene when Dross was talking to himself, kind of where you see that he was there all along, he was just scared. I like that. And
Hmm.
two, when he did come back, I felt like the humor at that point was earned. So I actually enjoyed Dross's humor when it came back because we had that contrast. We had that whole missing it. So when it came back, I'm like, oh, that's actually funny now. So
Yeah,
those are my thoughts.
I love it. I love those thoughts. Solution. You better be right
Pretty
about
close.
this.
The what? I was
You
worried
better
about
be
what?
right about this.
Oh no. What do you mean? A
Uh,
prediction?
Don't have the wrong opinion here. That's what I
No, I
mean.
think no, I like Dross. I do want to say I really enjoyed his third personality, and I was hoping Lyndon would have to just accept the Dross for who he was after he had Osmanthus that was not prior to being Ethan, helped him fix Dross. I was hoping it was like, all right, I kind of like this dark Dross humor, and I was thinking, all right, if this is the one we got to stick with, I'm cool with it. And I hope Lyndon just kind of is like, all right, he accepts him in this book. And then we get the actual Dross back, and I was like, I felt like it tricked me. I really wanted that Dross because I enjoyed that humor. But and then, like you said, there's more earned humor when you're back to Ghost Water style Dross.
No.
and and for what it's worth, for what it's worth, Dr- Lipton did accept the nihilistic Dross.
Yeah, yeah, he
Yeah.
was trying to, and I like that. I really like that.
So
No.
go ahead,
I
go ahead,
I was
Justin.
gonna say I agree
Tell
with
me
Era.
I'm wrong.
Like, no, it's fine. Seeing Dross's perspective and being like he's scared to go back to his personality because he's like, I was my personality and that didn't help. It didn't fix the problem. I wasn't able to do it. So maybe if I'm someone different, I can be better. But then realizing, no, just going back to myself and being true to who I am is the thing. I liked the new Dross. The third Dross, it just felt like that high school super emo. Everything's about death. Everything's just sad. I was just so done with it after like 3 sentences from him, and he's like, "Fear me, I am death incarnate," and like, surely this is all in trials of life and death. That's when you feel the most alive. And it's like, please, just like get
It
on
was
with it.
so corny. It was great. I loved it.
No, it was funny. And then he names all of the constructs for Kelsa. He's like, this is the bludgeoner, this is the immolator, this is flesh
Yes,
ripper,
yes, that was
and creeping
incredible.
death. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like all of these names are just like the most emo, like death centered, like just silly names you could ever come up with. And I was like, I am not like I like the names, they're funny. But I was just like his personality. I was like, I'm so glad he's back. And I liked the way he earned it. He's like, I was here and I was hiding, and now I'm myself again. So
Well, and the reason
uh,
that he was hiding because he felt like he failed Lyndon. So
yeah,
that's why he felt like
exactly.
he
Yeah.
needed that new personality. So that I know it was on my ebook. It was like maybe 3/4 of a page. Um, I enjoyed that little snippet of Dross kind of going, yeah, look, I mean, Lyndon cares for me no matter how I act, so I might as well go back to being myself, right? So
Yeah. Instead of putting on a
and
forced persona, be myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a good lesson. Like, look, if somebody likes you, you don't have to pretend to be something other than who you are.
Yeah. Well, I like that this gave Dross, not that he didn't have personality, that's what this entire thing was about, but it was him less being about an object that Lyndon needed to fix because it was broken, and more about Dross going through growth, which is cool.
Right, and to your point, Lyndon doesn't has never viewed Dross as an object. He's always viewed him as person.
Right. Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and Dross gets the double upgrade. First in the Soul Forge, and then second off
Yeah.
of all the Silent King's Madra. Like he gets the crown and the halo.
Lots of
So
stuff.
Dross I think Dross next to Lyndon is like the most powered up one by the end of the book.
Yeah, he's very muscular. He's constantly showing off his guns, which is funny.
That's funny. All right, here's this is one of my favorite scenes. It's very similar. It's right at the same time as the Kelsa Jai Long scene,
Okay.
where his parents, have rushed into his house, and his mom's like, Lyndon said to activate this script in the case of an emergency, and it's an emergency. And his dad's like, no, it's not that emergency. We'll just go fight him. And then a Carrie, her remnant, shows up, and she's like, "Oh, are you guys in danger?" And they're like, "Yes." And he's like, "Great, I'll do this for you." And then Lyndon will owe me a favor, first
Hmm.
off. And then she's like, "This is my territory. Get off my land." Lights of every color streaked away from her, and she herself breathed liquid gold. Jaren slowly shut the door. Stacia slid a hand around his waist. You'll have to get used to these things sooner or later. No. Jaren grumbled. Then he tossed his useless spear in the corner. I love that. Just being like, he's just refusing to change and admit. And he's like, yeah, like this is a useless spear. Like I thought I would be good, And I just like that scene where he's like, Lyndon had that countermeasure prepared. He's like, here's this remnant that will protect you. Uh,
Yeah.
did you guys like that scene at all? Am I just crazy?
It was okay. I actually probably should have reread that because I think that was the day it released, and I was falling asleep, and that's the part I got to, and I was like, "Oh, okay." It's like I just started to nod. I was like, "I need to put this down, and I will pick it up in the morning." So I should have reread that. And I don't think I remembered to do that.
That's fine. Era, am I
I,
crazy?
I couldn't care less for that scene just because Jaren is just somebody who's refusing to accept that his son has surpassed him, and that's what he's refusing to accept. So I understand why you liked it, but I so detest the father that I just I was kind of hoping he died. So
Would you prefer Lyndon's father to die or Jai Long to die?
definitely the father. So Jai Long, that's the my one that's one of my favorite scenes. In that, they're eating away at the Silent King's Madra. They're eating away at the Silent King's Madra. They're finally able to break through. When they break through, you you never get Jai Long's point of view, but you can tell through his actions, Jai Long is like, he's the Silent King's going to take me over again, and I'm going to kill the woman I love and my sister, and I can't let that happen. And so, he basically immolates himself, and they're trying to save him and everything. And when all that happens and he's still alive kind of at the end of it, the Silent King obviously comes to this realization of, I can't really control this guy, so I might as well kill him myself. So he sends all the other villagers to attack Jailong. So remember last book I said one of the things I liked about in Reaper was Jailong's story arc. So I like that it got concluded. Even if it's bittersweet, I like the fact that it concluded in a way that's fitting for Jailong.
Yeah.
He went
It
from being
is.
a villain to being a hero, you know?
And if only he trained a little bit more, he might have been a little bit stronger for it.
Maybe.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. It is bittersweet because you want to see nobody likes to see their characters die that have, become better. But sometimes it is necessary. And, while we don't all love Jai Long, he was on the path of being better. And to see him go down, but in service of, sacrificing and protecting others, what's a more fitting end, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Soul?
All right. Favorite scene? Well, we already talked about uh Emrys and Lyndon working together for the Silent King. That was a fun scene. So I'll throw a less serious scene. Lyndon scaring Jailong was fun as the older, well, younger brother, but basically the sibling being like, "All right, you better watch yourself." And then I love Dross doing the little "I'm watching you" motions. That made me lose it, and I just had to laugh at that one. I really enjoyed that scenario.
That is a great one.
I have
On
two more
the
favorite scenes, by the way.
Oh,
Go for it.
okay. Let's hear one of your other favorite scenes.
The last blooper.
The last
Yes,
blooper. Yes, that's.
it's a very
I
good
don't think we
blooper.
can't not talk about that one, right?
I actually laughed out loud. I couldn't. I was like, I just started laughing hysterically. That was just great. If you have it pulled up, do you want to read it?
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Oh, here. Let me pull it up real fast. Why don't you guys talk about something while I pull it up?
All right. Here's one really silly part that I also liked. It made me just laugh out loud a little bit. Zeal and Orthos are in the, they're going through and they find that it's a Herald remnant, and
Yeah.
the Herald remnant's like, "I am free," and then like literally like right after he says free, he's like, "Put me back, put me
Put me
back,
back, put me
put me
back."
back. I'm not safe here anymore." And it's because Lyndon showed up, and it was just like, I love his overpowering presence. That they're like,
Oh,
okay, actually, I'm gonna go over here, and I'm gonna be very polite, and and the dragon's just like, "I don't have any issues with you. No, no, Lyndon,
yeah,
please.
yeah.
I'm a good dragon. I will let the Orthos turtle absorb me when he's more powerful." Like, just that scene was pretty silly, but fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it was very fun.
Okay, I have it pulled up here.
All
Let
right,
me go.
let's hear it.
I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read the last two paragraphs. Okay.
Hmm.
Space. Ethan turned back to Lyndon. I'm not usually one for measuring things precisely, but I get the feeling that this book will actually end up longer than the last one, thanks to a little strategic addition. Really? Lyndon frowned and took another sip of tea. You think this story is longer than the last one? If my calculations are correct, this book should have more words than the last one by exactly ... Ethan counted to himself ... 1.
Yeah, just
So
so good.
that's just a great
Uh,
joke. That's funny. So
yeah, it was
Oh,
pretty good. It was
and
a good way to end it too. It felt
yeah.
like a good. All right, this is the end. Here you go.
Um, all right, I like that scene. How did you guys feel about the Suriel and the Machiel and the Osriel stuff? I felt like there was a lot less of it, but I thought it served its purpose a lot better.
Yeah, we don't need to get too far into it because this is Lyndon's story. That was made clear in Reaper that they will not be going too crazy outside of Cradle during the series. So we don't need a super hyped up outer planet war that's going on. I mean, we have that, but we just don't need to see so much of it when we're going to wrap up Cradle on the planet.
Okay.
I
And
mean, personally, I didn't care much for the storylines themselves, but the parts that I did like that I thought were important were kind of some of the clues that he dropped, and kind of like the kind of the hammering home of some of the realizations. Like one, Osriel in future fates apparently is going to get thrown into a void. Well, who better to save him than the Sage of the Void icon, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's being set up, right? That's good.
that's a good call. I did not think of that actually. Good call.
I like the way the Vroshir and the Abadan view fate. Like Daromon twists fate to suit his needs, whereas the Abadan pick which fate they want to follow, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Lyndon disguises himself from fate so that he can do whatever he wants to without somebody controlling him. So I like the different views of kind of how people view fate. So I like that. And the last thing is you realize, if it hasn't been made clear to you by now, like halfway, like the second or third scene with the space doctors, the space judges,
Uh-huh.
how much more powerful Osriel is than everybody else. Like
Yeah.
his power is off the charts. I made a joke to you guys off screen, is that he should have no hair. He should be One Punch Man. I mean, he's just so insanely overpowered compared to everybody else that like they literally have to maneuver him into a position where he can't win in order to attempt to control him. It's just he's so insanely overpowered compared to everybody else. Yeah, but it also shows you how short-sighted the Watcher is.
Yeah, Machiel. I have in my notes here, I have in all caps, super Machiel, because he can't he's cutting off his nose to spite his face. He's hurting
Yeah.
Osriel because Osriel is better than him at everything. Basically, he's a better Fate Watcher. He's a better Spider. He's better at everything except for the Phoenix. And Makio can't stand that, and so he's like, "No, I'll just, 7 out of 10 fates, Osriel dies." But did he look at those other 3 fates and be like, "Oh wait, but in like 3 out of those 10, Suriel's gonna die," and that's potentially that's worse for everything, right? Um,
Well,
so
but think about this. They punish Osriel for leaving because he's required to exist to essentially prune off dead or dying worlds, right? So it's
right,
Osriel's responsibility to kill off trillions of people at a shot because nobody else has the constitutional fortitude or the ability to kind of take the mental weight of doing this stuff
Yeah.
and the ability to do it. Only Osriel can do it.
mm-hmm,
He
mm-hmm.
leaves, their whole system falls apart. He comes back. The very first thing they do is they enslave him and they put him in a situation where he has no choice but to follow around somebody else and basically do their bidding like a living weapon. So, what's Makio's response to this? Let's kill him. That way, the one thing we have that can control and save our system is completely and utterly destroyed because somehow magically we're going to be able to recreate it. It's never really explained. It's literally the dumbest possible thing you can do as a judge. Literally dumbest.
Yeah, he's just
Yeah,
bad guy TM right there.
I think he's just trying to play up that just how much Makio just like hates him because he is better than him. But at the same time, I think that Makio's thinking like, well, once Osriel's out of the picture, because Osriel's not like the other judges. The other judges are like pretty serious and they like care. They don't, not that they don't. Osriel doesn't care, but they have like the weight to them. This is my solemn duty, and Osriel has never really had that, I don't think. And now he's even more just like, I am myself and I'm gonna have fun. I'm not gonna not make funny jokes at certain times, and that doesn't sit well with him or his with Mackie or his picture of the judges. And so I think he's just like, well, once Osriel's gone, we'll just take his scythe and we can do that. We can do the pruning. And it's like, yeah, but you already had that. And who knows who messed up fate enough that because Osriel had it all planned. He's like, when I left, my future sight said you had like 20 generations or 20 whatever before anything even started going bad. And I wasn't even gone for like a third of that. And you guys messed it up. So I don't know.
By the way, I don't like the name executors. I think our name of Cradle Robbers much better. So
Well, yeah. We'll talk to Will and we'll have to let him know like he should change it and see if he can do some
Yeah.
edits.
Get some rewrites. Yeah, well, it's in Kindle Unlimited, so it's easy to edit. Shoop,
That's
you know.
true. There were
Yeah,
actually, I think, more in this release than any others. I've noticed a lot of grammatical errors, but again, I know that gets fixed, so it did throw me out for a couple of them.
I rarely notice those unless they're very bad. So,
That's true. Yeah.
okay, how did you guys feel about Ethan and Suriel? Ethan being like, I want to watch Ethan do or Lyndon do his thing. And he's like, I think he's just figuring out the void thing, like the stop people from talking. And he's like, and I had responses pre-planned and recorded
Yeah, I
and
thought
like
that was
ready to
good.
go on that. That was pretty
I
funny.
mean, it's classic Ethan, and he misses his family. That's his family. Like that changed him as a person after he's been alive for thousands of years, and he wants to hang out with them.
So I think the irreverence is new to the judges. I think
Yeah.
he's always kind of been flippant and like sarcastic. I think that's always been present. But I think this irreverence is new and it's really throwing them off.
Yeah, he's different, even though
Yeah.
he is, still the same kind of. But Cradle has definitely changed him.
Well, he changed himself. Like, I mean, look, I think it's a good lesson. It really is. I mean, no matter who you are as a person, if you put in the time and effort, you can change yourself. Like, he
Yeah,
did not like who he was. So he put in the time and effort to become a better person. And
yeah,
so,
he did.
the Ethan deserves credit for that. Will deserves credit for kind of making that a storyline.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Okay. Let's
All right,
see.
what do we got
Now,
next?
I don't have much. Do you guys think Suriel will die and be destroyed by the Mad King?
Yes, she has to die. She's the Phoenix, and then she'll rise again.
Osriel has to go into the void. So the question is, Is there a fated scenario where they both die?
That'd be fun. All right, so they
Because
both die, and Lyndon's able to save Azrael, and then Serial comes back as the Phoenix.
But if she's utterly destroyed and the Phoenix icon, for lack of a better term at this
Yeah.
second, is destroyed, then it would fall to the next highest. It wouldn't be our Suriel anymore. It'd be the new Suriel.
so is there anybody
Yeah.
in our little group of people who could be the next Phoenix? Mercy. Mercy.
I don't know. Mercy doesn't really have, as much as I think that would be cool with Mercy in her name, but like she doesn't have the power obviously yet, but she doesn't
Yeah.
have any like healing either.
She
She's more
doesn't.
about
Okay, yeah. So she doesn't have the power yet.
she's more about crowd control to me though. She's like slow my enemies down, capture them in this, versus healing or like
I
that
don't
kind of
know.
power. I mean, I don't know.
Do you guys think she's
You're
even going
becoming
to
an
ascend?
apprentice.
Sure. Apprentice
Absolutely.
works.
I definitely think she's going to ascend. I think the entire group's going to ascend.
Once they destroy all of Malice's and all the monarchs, I feel like she's going to be really sad for what she's leaving behind as far as her legacy and her family.
I mean, so it's all for Mercy. It's all going to come down to pride. Is pride going to leave with her or not? And I think if pride says I'm going, I think she ascends.
I think she'll ascend because that's where her mom is, or her mom will be. Because I don't think Linda's
No,
going to
she's
kill
gonna.
the monarchs. I think they're going to ascend.
Yeah, I believe Malice is going to die, and that's why Mercy will decide whether she's going to stay with them or stay behind and take care of the Akura clan.
Okay.
Do you guys have any least favorite scenes?
Yes.
Ooh.
And it's not really a least favorite, but it's something that normally I enjoy when we get outside perspectives of Lyndon and other stuff like that. But it was when the Silent King has the drones with the Dreadnought City. I did appreciate getting that. I just didn't like the pacing of getting into that before
Mhm.
we really had other stuff
It's a
because
good
I
call.
knew where this book was heading. So that did annoy me a little bit, but it wasn't too big. But that was definitely my least favorite for the novel.
Yeah. I mean, I think my least favorite thing is just we spend so much time focused on the the Silent King that the other Dread Gods kind of don't do anything. I mean, they're off attacking this city and they've been repulsed, and it's like, I mean, they're awake. Are they really going to get repulsed? I don't know. I mean, that was cool, like, but the only things we really see are like the Wandering Titan gets a sword, which is scary now that it has a sword, right? Like that's scary, but that's kind of it. It's just all the other ones were in the background. I would have loved to see them a little bit more, being like real consequences. Like now, these allies you thought you might have had are gone, wiped out by the Dread Gods,
Yeah.
versus just doing things.
Good point.
Okay.
Mine was Malice releasing Lyndon from his oath. I mean, why would Malice do that?
I think just arrogance, I guess, is the reasoning behind that.
Because supposedly there's going to be a consequence where he was going to be so damaged psychically that he'd be unable to advance. It was a complete non-issue.
Well, I think that was also
That was part of
to
the
show you
releasing of that
how
oath.
good Lyndon is at advancing and
Yeah.
mentally with dross and stuff. That they're just like everybody's like, oh, he's going to be practically incapacitated, and he's like, cool, I'm up. Want to go train until we have our meeting, kind of thing, because he's so like used to that and he can handle it.
I just thought Malice for being Malice.
So if Malice was true to her character, you think she would have just let him die, or
No,
because
she would have let him stay there and be tortured sufficiently until she actually needed him to fight the Silent King.
I feel like with the Dread Gods being awake, she can't afford to have him be too weakened before the fight, just because he has a major power now, and without him, obviously, it didn't work. But if he was tortured right up until before the fight, he would be weaker. It could have negative. I don't know. You know what I'm thinking, though.
But go ahead. Yeah, but she only did it just to, pacify Charity.
And it was so weird that she hadn't even told Charity, like another sage, her daughter and her sister.
It's her.
Granddaughter.
It's
Granddaughter.
granddaughter. Because Mercy is technically Charity's aunt.
Oh, I thought it was reversed. That
No.
Charity is her aunt.
Charity is the niece of Mercy.
Okay, well, it's just the family dynamics are just all over the place in that family as well. That's what happens when you have immortals running things. Things
Yeah.
get confusing.
It's definitely confusing. I agree with you.
So, okay. No, I don't have anything else. Era, did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
I thought we were going to talk about the Abadan versus the
Oh,
Vroshir
that's
versus
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So hit us off. Start us off with that. Abadan versus the Vroshir versus.
like what Osriel wants to create.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Okay.
I mean, what we have here is we have the Abadan, who they basically want to maintain the status quo, and they're just larger versions of the Cradle Monarchs, so they're no good. You have the Vroshir, who are basically thieves, right? So they go around stealing stuff and just help themselves. So they're basically like base Vikings. So they're not really any good. So and then you have what Osriel's trying to create, which was the Executors, which failed in the past. So I guess this goes to where the next series would go. But what's the solution here? Because it seems like all versions of people who want to control fate all end in disaster. Is the solution to not control fate?
But when the executors were first created for that generation, was that before Osriel changed, or was that when he was at his peak and he was a little malicious?
It was definitely Osriel in this first phase for sure.
So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe this is a part of him changing. He wants to recreate it as he and lead it as a newer, better person. So that's why I think he's trying to do that with the Cradle Robbers.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh,
That's
I
good.
see. I see the Abadan as they are their order, and the Vroshir are chaos, right? And that's why they are always fighting. The Vroshir just want chaos and ruin, and they don't. They want things for themselves, but they don't care about sacrificing all the worlds, right? They bring the chaos, they ride the void, right? But the Abadan are like, no, everything has to be this way and this way and this way, and I think with the Cradle crew or the Cradle Robbers, I think they're going to be. I think the end goal would be a mix. Like obviously the Abadan, I don't know if they need to go necessarily, but like you can't have 100% order and you can't have 100% chaos. You have to have a mix, right? That's how growth happens. That's how life changes, right? If everything stays the same and is super orderly, nothing changes. But if there's too much chaos, nothing happens on the other end as well because it's too chaotic, right? So I think the Cradle crew can bring this mix of like chaos or this mix of chaos and order together harmoniously. Obviously, Lyndon, I think, will be a great executor because he can just void things out of existence, which would be similar to Ethan. So,
I think that Abadan are going to be in a heck of a lot of trouble once Lyndon ascends, because Lyndon will accept no authority over him. That's just not who he is. He'll accept friends, but not authority.
well,
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to ascend the regular way because when you get ascended by the Abadan, I think you have to swear oaths and such thing, right? You're basically put under them, and I think they're gonna just sidestep that completely. You
I
know.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
So, is the Abadan? Do you think the Abadan are at the true peak of what is possible, or no?
Never. No, not in this type of series. There's always more you can get to.
So why haven't they gone there then, or why haven't we heard any hints of it?
Ambition. Do you need the This is that type of story. This is a progression fantasy. You gotta have the ambition. And these are people who are like, no, I'm at the top. I want to stay at the top. But we got Lyndon, and we got some other boys, and we got the crew. That's the whole thing. So they're gonna go higher. They gotta go
And
higher.
Ethan's always wanted somebody to go along with him.
Yep.
Hmm.
So
Before we get into predictions, I did have one or two honorable mentions and some lines I want to throw out that were really fun.
Yeah.
Um, Specifically, the line, I don't remember who was even saying it now. It's just I did write it down. It was advance. They don't do much else. It's their first solution to any problem, and that is essentially this entire series. And like, what are they going to do? It's like they're going to advance. That's what they're going to do. Like we know what they're going to do. They're going to do this because that's the only thing they ever do for anything.
Oh, I think that's with Orthos or something. He's like, the dragon advances. That's what we do is we advance. Yeah. Huh?
No, I don't think that was Orthos, but I could be wrong.
It's a similar thing at least then. Yeah. But
Yeah,
that was a good line. Yeah.
it was Mercy.
it was Mercy.
Oh,
Okay.
that's right. She's talking to her mom and she's like,
It's
what are
like,
they gonna do? And she's like, they're gonna advance. That's all they focus on.
yeah, that's all we do as a group. Okay. I really enjoyed Pride showing he cares about Lyndon. That was a great moment. It didn't take too long. Brought back to the previous books. growth as Pride's character. I thought it was really cool, and I'm hoping Pride does go with them when they do ascend. But we'll see if they don't go the regular way. I feel like that's going to be difficult for Pride because he's not had a lot of leveling up before they go. Yeah. Oh, I did like the Sage of Red Faith has a sensory deprivation tank. That was cool.
Yep.
Any of you guys know about those are up and coming the past like 10 years or so. So it was pretty interesting to see that he did that and will incorporate it in the story. Yeah. Oh, and the last line is I'll remember this new guy, Dross said to the Herald Dragon that they captured. That was just like, I'll remember this. That was a good line. That's what I got.
Yeah.
You guys got any special lines that just kind of stuck out to you as funny or noteworthy?
Near the very end, they're talking about Linda's talking about beating Malice, and he's like, "Then they left because no one could stop them."
Ooh, that was a
Just
good one.
showing like just their power level has gone up so high. Like they left not because they wanted to or they were forced out. They left because no one could stop them. Right? They're free to do whatever they want after manhandling Malice.
Yeah, and I thought the book was gonna end with that, like with them, like their storyline was gonna end there, and I was like, I'm cool with that. That was a good line to end it at, and they were gonna just do space doctor stuff and everything else. But then we got more time chamber. Yeah, we
Yeah,
can do
the
time
other line
chamber.
was pretty cool too. When we get back, the Dreadgods and Monarchs will run from us, not the other way around. So,
Yeah, it was a good one.
Aaron, do you have any final thing you wanted to say or do?
No,
Okay, no prediction, no final prediction for you.
I think
No
I
last
told you
one.
the prediction.
I agree with you, but I
Hmm.
have one last prediction unless Chesky has one.
My prediction: they
Okay.
kill the other three dead gods, then they force the monarchs to ascend. The basest of base predictions.
I don't think this is gonna happen in this book. I feel like he may save this for the next series, but if this is Lyndon's final story, his arm is gonna consume the seven icons of the judges, like their roles. That's what I think's gonna
Oh,
happen.
that's a prediction.
Yeah. Because we've already seen
Oh,
him consuming authority, consuming everything possible. He's gonna consume that, and that's how they're gonna start their new cradle robbing gang. Is we're just gonna take all the roles from the judges into Lyndon's arm, and then he can do with that with Azrael what they want and reassemble however they want to do it.
I would like to see. It's not going to happen in this series, but in whatever other series comes up, uh, I want to see Lyndon struggle with this arm because Subject One's hunger completely overtook him, and Lyndon seems is pretty easily controlling this arm,
Hmm.
at least so far.
yeah. I have thoughts about that, but nothing really worth bringing up. I think at the end of this episode. So.
Yeah, we'll get into it in the next one, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, if
All right,
if
I'm
that's
good.
everything that you guys have, then that's everything I have, and that's going to conclude our episode. Thanks for coming on, special guest Eradandis and Solution.
Thank you for having
Consume,
us. Yeah. Consume, consume, consume,
consume.
consume. Okay.
Thank you guys for listening to this great episode. You can find us on the Legendarium's Discord, and the invite link is on the legendarium.com. Our music is Galactic Damages. And thank you, Craig, for loaning us a little quarter of your media empire. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
See you, everybody.